I'm not even straightened up here. Oh, cool. Can you, Lisa, tell them come in or shush? All right. Yeah, chase Fred and Doreen in. We good? Okay, and do we know if we're Zooming yet? Samantha, can you go check with the office and ask him if we're in Zoom land yet? Just run, though, if you can. I apologize. No hugs. Go find out. Thank you. Hello, hello. To those of you that are watching us right now in the world of YouTube and the world of Facebook, we need another minute. We apologize. We're just trying to see if we're out in Zoom yet. Huh? Copies of... Oh, yeah, I usually do. Well, because one was meant for Liam, but I never gave it to him. All right, I'm going to take it for granted we're streaming to Zoom right now. I have no idea if we are or aren't. So we're going to begin. Shabbat Shalom, everybody. Shabbat Shalom to those of you that are in our congregation right now. Shabbat Shalom to those of you that are watching on Zoom, Facebook, and YouTube now or anytime this weekend. And for those of you who are not showing up for another hour just to get dinner, you should come to services. So tonight we're doing a couple of different things. We are honoring Shabbat, and we are also celebrating Yom Ha'atzmaut, Israeli Independence Day. And if we want to learn about Israel, we've got to go all the way back to the book of Genesis. In Genesis, God said to Avram, that was Abraham's name before he became Abraham, God said to Avram, go forth from your native land and from your father's house to the land I will show you, and there I will make you a great nation, and I will bless you. The land God was telling Avram about is what we call today Israel. And this occurrence, this interaction between God and Avram occurred over 3,500 years ago. And except for a short period, about 430 years, that we spent in Egypt as slaves, well, we've always been in that land. We've always lived there. We haven't always controlled it politically, but Jews have never left the land. There's been a continued presence. And the study of history and archaeology teaches us the land has always had a Jewish presence. And then in 1948, after 2,000 years of not controlling our homeland, we regained control. We regained control, or at least political control, of a land we had never left. We were recognized by others as a nation, and that's why we celebrate Yom Ha'atzmaut. And so we're going to begin with a bit of a medley. Cantor is going to sing for us Im Tirtzu, page 644. Then you got to go back a page for Am Yisrael Chai on 642. And then back to 644 for the next one. All right, but I'll try to call them out for you. Here we go. We're going to begin with Im Tirtzu. If you will it is no dream, a famous phrase from Theodore Herzl. Here we go. I'm just singing along. I don't even know what we're doing as we sing. So let me tell you about the founder of modern-day Zionism. In January of 1895, the New Free Press, an Austrian newspaper, sent one of its star reporters, Theodor Herzl. Have you heard of Theodor Herzl? A couple of you have? That's good. Sent Theodor Herzl, a Jewish journalist who had little involvement with Judaism, well, to cover a story. He was a man of a modern age, and he had no need for his cultural past, or so he thought at this moment. But in 1894, his perspective changed. You see, he went to cover the trial of Alfred Dreyfus. Alfred Dreyfus was convicted of a crime he did not commit simply because he was a Jew. He attended the public ceremony where Dreyfus was stripped of his rank. He saw the crowd yelling anti-Semitic slurs against Dreyfus, and Herzl realized that without a Jewish state, this was bound to happen again and again and again. And within a year, he composed a book called The Jewish State. Very poetic title. I'm sure you didn't realize it was about the Jewish state, but that's what he called it, where he outlined his ideas for a Jewish homeland. And Herzl took it upon himself to convene the first Zionist conference in Switzerland in 1897. And at that conference, Jews from around the world came together to proclaim, "We need our homeland back. We need the world to return to us what is rightfully ours. And we need not just the right to return to the land of our ancestors, but to also have political control over it." Herzl traveled throughout Europe asking heads of state for their assistance. He went to the Turks, who controlled Palestine at the time, but to no avail. No one was willing to help create a Jewish state, but he never gave up. During his lifetime, he saw the first wave of chalutzim, young pioneers, return to Israel. And these young Jews began to change the land by reviving it, turning marshland into fertile fields. And with the help of Zionists from abroad, the chalutzim established a national bank and a Jewish national fund to begin to buy land in Palestine. Sadly, Herzl died at the age of 44, but his work continued. The idea of a Jewish homeland did not fade. And Theodor Herzl once said, "If you will it, it is no dream." That's what we just sang, Im Tirtzu. His will inspired so many people and so many generations that followed him that his dream became a reality. The Jewish people cannot speak enough of the work he did to make the modern Jewish state a reality. We continue with Lachado D, found on page 138. We'll be doing verses 1, 2, 5, and 9. And like Theodor Herzl, the Sabbath bride comes each Friday night to make our Shabbat a reality. Page 138, verses 1, 2, 5, and 9, rising on that final verse.
שמור וזכור בדיבור אחד, השמיענו אל מיוחד, אדוני אחד ושמו אחד, לשם תפארת ולתהילה. לך דודי דודי, לך דודי לקראת כלה, בעיני שבת נקבלה. לקראת שבת לכו ונלכה, כי ובמחשבה תחילה. לך דודי דודי, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת וקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת וקבלה. התעוררי, התעוררי, כי באורך כולי אורי, 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 שיר דברי, כבוד אדוני עלייך נגלה. לך דודי דודי, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת וקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה,
If you're able, please rise and face the back door.
בואי בשלום עטרת בעלה, גם בשמחה ובצהלה, בוכם ונעם סגולה. בואי חלה, בואי חלה, לך דודי, לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת וקבלה. לך דודי לקראת כלה, פני שבת וקבלה.
You may be seated. I'd like to ask for our evening sponsors to come forward. Lori and Brian Getz, if I can get Lori's name out tonight, and Vera and Glenn Sadek to please light our Shabbat candles for us. As we come forward, or as they come forward to light our Shabbat candles, we have to realize that the candles represent the gateway into Shabbat. We just welcomed the Sabbath bride into our presence, but not into our hearts. And as these candles are lit, well, she will enter this gateway, be part of our lives for the next 24 hours. And everyone's being very courteous over who's going to light the candles tonight. Let's take a moment and take a deep breath in as Shabbat begins. And then a breath out. Another deep breath in. Holding it and letting it out. Final deep breath to feel the peace and rest of Shabbat. In. Hold it and let it out. I lie, 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 lie. Yeah, I lie, 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 lie. I lie, lie. Yeah, I lie, 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 lie. Let's reach our hands out towards the candles and bring our hands in once for Shabbat peace, once for Shabbat love, and once for Shabbat rest.
ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו, וציוונו להדליק נר, וציוונו להדליק נר, וציוונו להדליק נר של השבת.
In the early 1900s, one of the great Zionist spokesmen was Chaim Weizmann. He was the next leader after Theodor Herzl. And during the first meeting between Chaim Weizmann and the United Kingdom's Foreign Secretary Arthur James Balfour back in 1906, Balfour asked what Weizmann's objections were to the idea of a Jewish homeland in Uganda rather than in Palestine. You see, the Jews had been offered Uganda as a Jewish homeland, an idea that Herzl supported, but the majority of Zionists did not. Can you imagine us all in Uganda right now? And according to Weizmann's memoir, the conversation went as follows. Mr. Balfour, supposing I was to offer you Paris instead of London, would you take it? And Balfour sat up, looked at him, and answered, but Dr. Weizmann, we have London. That is true, I responded, but we had Jerusalem before London was even a marsh. And he said two things which I remember vividly. The first was, are there many Jews who think like you? And I answered, I believe I speak the mind of millions of Jews whom you will never see and who cannot speak for themselves. And to this Balfour said, if that is so, you will one day be a force. One day we will be a force. 11 years later, on November 2nd, 1917, a letter was sent from the United Kingdom from James Balfour, then Foreign Secretary, to Baron Rothschild, a leader of the British Jewish community. And it read in part, His Majesty's government views with favor the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people. With this letter, the first foreign government officially supported the establishment of a Jewish state in the Jewish homeland. Though British support would waver in the coming years, this letter was the beginning of a process that Herzl envisioned at that first Zionist Congress. I'd like everyone to please rise for the Baruch. And let's always remember that if we keep pushing, if we keep willing, if we keep dreaming, we can make miracles happen. The Baruch, we are on page 146, we face the ark.
ברכו את אדוני המבורך.
Please remain standing for the Shema. The Shema speaks about our unity of spirit, our unity of purpose. And we talk about the establishment of the state of Israel back in 48. We are talking about unity of purpose that only can occur when we have, a unity of spirit, a unity of community, a unity of religion. So we take a moment. We feel ourselves connected to everyone around us. And now we cover our eyes for the Shema. Shema Yisrael Adonai Eloheinu Adonai
שם כבוד מלכותו לעולם ועד.
You may all be seated. We continue the Vahafta found on page 154. Cantor Noah.
ואהבת
את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך. היו דברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך
היום על לבביך ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך וקשרתם לאות על ידיך והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים להיות לכם לאלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
1947. World War II and the horrors of the Holocaust were behind us. And Jews worldwide waited for word regarding the status of a Jewish homeland. And the United Nations decided to divide Palestine in two, with one section going to the Jewish population and the other to the local Arab community. The Jews were ecstatic. Their neighbors had slightly different sentiments. But on May 14th, 1948, the British departed Palestine. That afternoon, under the leadership of David Ben-Gurion, the Jewish people established the State of Israel. I've asked Jay to join me, and we're going to read the declaration of the establishment of the state, dated May 14th, 1948. Eretz Israel is the birthplace of the Jewish people. Here their spiritual, religious, and political identity was shaped. Here they first attained statehood, created cultural values of national and universal significance, and gave to the world the eternal book of books. After being forcibly exiled from their land, the people kept faith with it throughout their dispersion, and never ceased to pray and hope for their return to it, and for the restoration in it of their political freedom. On the 29th of November 1947, the United Nations General Assembly passed a resolution calling for the establishment of a Jewish state in Eretz Yisrael.
The state of Israel will be open for Jewish immigration and for the ingathering of the exiles. It will foster the development of the country for the benefit of all inhabitants. It will be based on freedom, justice, and peace, as envisaged by the prophets of Israel. It will ensure complete equality of social and political rights to all its inhabitants, irrespective of religion, race, or sex. It will guarantee freedom of religion, conscience, language, education, and culture. It will safeguard the holy places of all religions, and it will be faithful to the principles of the Charter of the United Nations.
We appeal to the United Nations to assist the Jewish people in the building up of its state and to receive the state of Israel into its comity of nations.
We appeal, in the very midst of the onslaught launched against us now for months, to the Arab inhabitants of the state of Israel to preserve peace and participate in the upbuilding of the state on the basis of full and equal citizenship and due representation in all its provisional and permanent institutions.
We extend our hand to all neighboring states and their peoples in an offer of peace and good neighborliness, and appeal to them to establish bonds of cooperation and mutual help with the sovereign Jewish people settled in its own land. The state of Israel is prepared to do its share in common effort for the advancement of the entire Middle East. We appeal to the Jewish people throughout the diaspora to rally round the Jews of Eretz Israel and the tasks of immigration and upbuilding, and to stand by them in the great struggle for the realization of the age-old dream, the redemption of Israel.
Placing our trust in the Almighty, we affix our signatures to this proclamation at this session of the Provincial Council of State, on the soil of the homeland, in the city of Tel Aviv, on this Shabbat Eve, the 5th day of Iyar, 5708.
And with these words, with this declaration, well, the control of the land of Israel was brought back into Jewish hands for the first time in 2,000 years. And 1 year later, the 5th of Iyar was proclaimed a national Israeli holiday, the Israeli Independence Day, Yom Ha'atzmaut. And this year we celebrate the 74th year of the existence of the modern state of Israel. And so now we talk about another amazing miracle, the Micha Mocha, found on page 158. And with the Micha Mocha, we sing about how that sea was split and how finally we found freedom. The Micha Mocha.
We are about to sing the V'shamru together. V'shamru is the declaration that Shabbat is for the Jewish people. And we also sustain a sacred relationship. As the prayer itself notes, the Sabbath is a covenant between God and Jews forever. Shabbat is a weekly act of love and communion, a meeting point between God and the people of Israel. We turn to page 162 for V'shamru.
עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ ושמעו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדוד ברית עולם וביום השביעי שבת וינפש שבת וינפש שבת וינפש ושמעו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדוד ברית עולם ושמעו בני ישראל את השבת לעשות את השבת לדודם ברית עולם.
We are now turning to page 371 for the Misha Berach. We say the Misha Berach for those who are ill of body or spirit. We can say the Misha Berach for others, but we can also say the Misha Berach for ourselves. And these don't have to be huge tragedies. They can be small things that are stressing us. And they can be things like war or sickness or even distressing news. We come together to pray for healing. Tonight on our Misha Berach list, we have Andy Andriot, Richard Barrett, Alyssa Lynn Bennett, Herman Basmante, Joyce Powell, Lisa Sage, Sylvia Nimroff, Joan Shank, Joyce Stern, Lois Adhami, Peggy Holm, Sherry Wells, Lisa Bruner, Firoz Manavi, Faji Manavi, Neil Friedman, Joanne Shapiro, Wayne Shaw, Jack Simone. We think of those suffering in Ukraine due to the war, those healing from the all too frequent gun violence, and all those caring for those who are ill. If you have any additional names, please say them out loud as my hand reaches you. Again, we turn to page 371 as we sing together.
Source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Be
We are now turning to the Amidah, also referred to as Hatfilah, the prayer. This is our time to pray directly to God. And we can use the words on the page or the words in our hearts. This Shabbat, we're going to be adding in prayer that's called Hoda'ah. Hoda'ah means gratitude. And we offer gratitude for the state of Israel, which will be found on page 555. And so I will cue to you when that happens. That's going to happen after we do our last Kedusha before silent prayer. I had a student say to me, Rabbi Jade, when you're up there and you're whispering to yourself, what are you saying? And I said, I'm actually using the prayer book and I'm reading through each prayer. Traditionally, we have 18 blessings in the Amidah. And so I would like to challenge you to just flip through these pages this evening. There's the traditional Amidah on the right, and there are really beautiful Jewish words of wisdom on the left. We start on page 164 with Adonai Sefatai. Please stand.
אדוני שפתי תפתח ופי יגיד תהילתך. Adonai, open up my lips that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu ואלוהי אבותינו ואימותינו. אלוהי אברהם, אלוהי יצחק, ואלוהי יעקב, אלוהי שרה, אלוהי רבקה, אלוהי רחל, ואלוהי לאה. האל הגדול, הגיבור והנורא, אל עליון, גומל חסדים טובים, וקונה הכל, וזוכר חסדי אבות ואימהות, ומביא גאולה לבני בניהם, למען שמו באהבה. מלך עוזר ומושיע ומגן, ברוך אתה אדוני, מגן אברהם ועזרת שרה. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחיה הכל אתה, רב להושיע, מוריד הטל, מחלקל חיים בחסד, מחיה הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, להחיות הכל. ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיה הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש, וקדושים בכל יום יללו חסלה. ברוך אתה אדוני, האל הקדוש.
We begin our silent prayer on page 555 with our Yom Ha'atzmaut reading. Once you are done, our continuation of the Amidah starts on page 172. We continue silently until page 180.
page 657 at the bottom, you'll find a word for the song. Song of Peace. Od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam, salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam. Od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu, od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam, salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam. All right, you're going to give it a try. Od yavo shalom, od yavo shalom, od yavo shalom ve'al kulam. Again. Od yavo shalom, od yavo shalom, od yavo shalom aleinu ve'al kulam. Salam, salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam, salam aleinu ve'al kol ha'olam. Salam, salam.
Sometimes it's great to be a spectator here. When our rabbinic intern Jade was leading the Amidah, I was standing up front and I was sort of in the middle of listening to you all chant the Amidah. And it was amazing how much noise was coming from this community and how many keys you were all singing in. I didn't know that many keys existed. Some people make fun of my singing. I'm just going to think of all of you next time. No, it was really quite beautiful though, because everybody was singing and participating. And that's beautiful because whether we have 2 people here or 2,000 people, if you're participating, then you're helping build a community. And before I begin with a little story, I want to say hi to Ethan, back from freshman year of college. I didn't think he'd make it through, so I'm really impressed. So I'm just kidding, Ethan. Really, great job. He went to American University. He's doing great there, correct? Okay, fabulous. And Mom and Dad, how's he doing? They will need donations to his college account. That'll be tonight's charity. So, all right, too many one-liners tonight. King David dreamed of building a temple, but he wasn't allowed. So instead, in his dreams, he would climb up into the heavens and we would see that temple that lived in the heavens, the one that he was going to recreate on this earth. But all he was allowed to do was to dig a big hole where it would go, because that job was going to fall to his son Solomon. And Solomon was going to have to create this temple. But he told him what it would look like. And he told him how everyone should be involved. So after David's passing, Solomon called together rich and poor, princes and priests, people of all levels of society. And he said, "People of Israel, let us build a splendid temple in Jerusalem in honor of God. And since the temple will be the holy place of all people, all of the people will help build it. Therefore, let's cast lots to see who will build each wall." And there were 4 lots, north, south, east, and west, and each group picked one. And the princes, they got the northern wall and the pillars and the responsibility to build the stairs to the temple. And the priests, they got the southern wall and they tended to the ark and they weaved the curtain of the ark. And the rich were given the eastern wall as well as supplying the oil for the eternal light. But the poor, they were left with the western wall, as well as weaving the temple's curtains. And they took on that job. You see, the princes, priests, and merchants, and the rich, they had other people build their walls for them because they could afford to do it. But the poor had no money. So it took them longer to complete their wall. But they worked with their own hands. And their hearts were filled with joy because they literally took action. And after that temple was complete, fathers and mothers could take their children to the wall and say, "Do you see that stone? That stone I put into the wall." And they looked at those rocks with honor. And mothers would say, "Do you see that beautiful curtain that covers our Holy of Holies? I helped weave it." And later, when the temple was destroyed, only the western wall was saved. The question is why? And the Midrash tells us that an angel spread their wings over it. And for that wall, built by the poor, it was protected because it was the most precious of all the walls in God's eyes. And today it still stands. And for Jews, it is a symbol of freedom, a symbol of independence, a symbol of a fight for independence. And so just like the Western Wall, the modern state of Israel is built through the efforts of early Zionist pioneers. Swamps were turned into farmland. Cities grew from desert sands. Israel is a country that came into existence because of the labor of every Jew who believed in Herzl's vision. So my blessing for each and every one of you who've gathered tonight, either in this room or on Zoom, Facebook, and YouTube, this is my blessing. May we all dream like Theodore Herzl. May we all negotiate like Chaim Weizmann. May we all create with our words like David Ben-Gurion. And may we continue to build Israel just as the Western Wall was built by the labor of those whose hearts so moved them. And may we always remember that Israel is the homeland for all Jews who need a home. It always has been and always will be. And together we say, Amen. I'm going to ask Jade to step forward to read a prayer for peace in that region. Jade, please.
This prayer was written by Alden Sullivan. When peace comes, O children of Abraham, you sons and daughters of Sarah and Hagar, what will you become? How long before shalom and salam echo in these hills, in these valleys and on these shores, as shouts of awe and amazement? How long before we remember to hold each other dear? One God, maker of all, banish war from our midst, speedily bring forth justice and understanding and love. Bind these wounds and heal our hearts. One day, that the children of Ishmael and the children of Isaac will dance as one. Joy will rise to heaven and gladness will fill the earth. We say, Amen.
I'm going to ask everyone to rise and face the Israeli flag. We are on page 678 for the singing of Kol Tikva. Excuse me. Ha Tikva. Same root. Okay, I'm there. Voice of hope or the hope. It's close. Here we go. Page 678.
Yehudi homia ulefatei mizrach kadima ayin letzion tzofia od lo avda tikvateinu התקווה בת שנות 2000 ירושלים, ליותם חופשי בארצנו, ארץ ציון וירושלים.
You may be seated. It's my honor to ask our board member, Karen Friedman, to come forward to deliver some announcements tonight. Yep.
Thank you. Shabbat Shalom. What a beautiful service. I'm a little emotional about Hatikva, or Kol Tikva, or both, all the above. I want to thank Rabbi and Cantor, Rabbi John Cantor Noah, and Azurai, who is our sound technician, and the beautiful Liam Friedman, gorgeous boy. I know him kind of, for doing our sound. And of course, our rabbinic intern, Jade, of course. Okay. Anyways, we only have a few announcements, but the one you have on mind, I'm sure all of you are thinking about next Saturday night, gala. Who's going? Who's going? All right, it's the party of the year. If you're not going, you can still go. Just see me. I'll help you. We'll get tickets. It's going to be fun. We're going to have a big, huge, wonderful celebration out here in our social hall and outside, dining outside, al fresco. We have some live music, magicians from the Magic Castle coming. It's going to be a great evening and a wonderful excuse to celebrate our community. So just see me afterwards if you want to get tickets. Right now, the auction opened today, so if you haven't seen the great online auction, go onto the website. You can get a link there. Look on Facebook. It's all over. If you're friends with me, you probably got it 17 times today. But go ahead and look on our auction. We've got great items, and they're all they're all being added in every day. We just keep getting a lot more items, and our committee is doing a great job entering them in. This week's tzedakah box donations will go to the Jewish Federation Ukraine Fund, so please give generously. And I want to give you a little information. I don't know if you saw this week's Jewish Journal. Did you guys read it? Anyone? Does anyone read this? Well, inside that journal is the coolest rabbi in the planet. Rabbi John has an amazing article. So please grab a Jewish Journal. We have them here, but if you get them at home or other places, get your Jewish Journal. You can also look online if you're not a paper reader and you like to have your little tablets. That works too. And special thank yous need to be said today because we had a lot of people who sponsored tonight to make tonight happen in honor of Israel. And that is a thank you to Alex and Sarah Litvak for sponsoring our Oneg in memory of Alex's uncles, Mark Axelrod and our Katie Litvak. And of course, a thank you to Vera Sadek and Glenn Sadek, along with Lori and Brian Getz, for sponsoring this community event tonight. So, Am Yisrael Chai, yeah, right? Okay. And thank you for joining tonight. And we hope to see you all at Gala and outside celebrating Israel. Have a good night. Shabbat Shalom.
You're good, Karen. Tzedakah teens, come on forward. I know Tzedakah teens. Where are they? Where are they? Oh, here they are. You have to share a microphone. Stand here so the camera can see you. Liam, get a nice shot on these guys.
Hello, my name is Alyssa Jones-Weiser, and I am the current president of the Kol Tikva Tzedakah Teens, a teen philanthropic group.
Hi, I'm Melanie Greenwald. I'm the vice president of Tzedakah Teens.
This year, we are raising money in order to protect and educate about women's reproductive rights nationwide to create a more equal future for all, which simultaneously addresses the overpopulation crisis affecting climate change.
Now, more than ever, supporting a woman's right to choose is crucial. With the threat of Roe v. Wade being overturned, it is important to do everything we can do to ensure reproductive freedom in the United States. Change starts with all of you.
Yeah. Please help the Tzedakah teens in our endeavor and donate today. Join us next Shabbat to learn about our journey this year, the organizations we chose to receive our grant, and how we are making a difference with social justice for our country. Thank you so much. Shabbat Shalom.
Still time to donate money. I'm sure they'll take it, right? Yes, of course. Tzedakah Teens has been part of the synagogue, I think, for 12 years now. And they do a great job of creating their own philanthropic organization, picking charities, writing mission statements, raising money, and then giving that money out as per their mission statement. I'm always very proud of their presentations. And if you weren't planning on coming next week, you should. Because when they get up here and they talk about the processes they went through, it always impresses me, and I'm sure it will impress all of you. So now we turn to what page? 570. We're having a rabbinic debate about this a moment ago. Page 570 for the counting of the Omer. We count the Omer every day from Passover into Shavuot. We count 49 days, then on the 50th day we have Shavuot. We count between these two festivals. One festival gave us individual freedom. The other festival, Shavuot, binds us together as a community. And we want to be a community, so we count these days in anticipation of this occurring. What makes us a community? The fact that we gathered at the foot of Mount Sinai, and we heard God's voice as God presented us with the Ten Commandments. And that moment, past, present, and future, were all one. And so now the cantor is going to lead us, well, in the counting of the Omer, in anticipation of this moment.
Page 570. הנני מוכן ומזומן, הנני מוכן ומזומן, הנני מוכן ומזומן, לקיים מצוות תעשה עשה, לקיים מצוות תעשה, כמו שכתוב בתורה, הנני מוכן ומזומן, כמו שכתוב בתורה, הנני מוכן ומזומן. We say the blessing together in the middle of the page. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו וציוונו על ספירת העומר. היום 21 יום שהם 3 שבועות לעומר. Today is the 21st day, which is 3 weeks of the Omer.
On our recently departed list, M.J. Kusel, remembered by the Waterman family. Tal Narani, remembered by the Kalin family. Richard Shaw, remembered by the Shaw and Bergman families. Esther Weissman, remembered by the Weissman family. Esther Spiro, remembered by the Enman and Hoffman families. Sam Kishner, remembered by the Kishner family. Joni Sneed, remembered by the Schultz family. We also think about the 18 Israelis killed over the past 2 weeks in terrorist attacks. Boaz Gal, Yonatan Havakuk, Oren Ben Yitva, Yachaslav Golev, Tomer Morad, Etam Magini, Barak Lufan, Amir Kuri, Yaakov Shalom, Avishai Yehezkel, Victor Sorokopot, Dmitry Mitrik, Yezen Fala, Shirol Abukarat, Doris Yabas, Laura Yitzhak, Rabbi Moshe Kravitsky, and Menachem Yehezkel. We also think of those who have died from COVID, as well as those who have been killed in the Ukraine. We also think of those who have died during this season and years past. Mark Axelrod, Sophie Cohen, Bertha Eisenberg-Olean, Rose Groner, Samuel Lewis, Arcady Litvak, Vic Martyr, Betty Maurer, Marilyn Maddie, Alan Rockman, William Roseman, Esther Rosen, Alex Sachs, Esther Scope, Sarah Katie Soror, Barney Shane, Hinda Lee Sheffer, Lou Simon, Hermine Alschuler Stern, Dorothy Saran, Leo Vanditti, Perry Walkov, and Erwin Winehouse. If you have an additional name for our Kaddish or Yort site list, share it with me now. If you're in the first 7 days of mourning Shiva, I ask you to rise. If you're in the first 30 days of mourning Shloshim, I ask you to rise. If you're in the first year of mourning, I ask you to rise. If you're observing a Yortzeit, I ask you to rise. These are the mourners in our midst. We rise to show them our love and our support. We are on page 598. Yitgadal v'yikadash shmei Rabbah, be'alma divra chirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayachon v'yimechon v'chayei dechol Beit Yisrael, b'galav v'zman kari v'imru. Yehei shmei Rabbah mivorak le'olam olamei amaya. Yitbarach, v'yishtabak, v'yitpa'ar, v'yitramam, v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar, v'yitaleh, v'yitalal, shmei dekudsha, le'ela min kol birchata v'shirata, tushbachata v'nechamata, damiran bi'alma v'imru. Yehei shlama rabba min shmaya, v'chayim aleinu v'al kol Yisrael. Oseh shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom, Aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, ve'al kol yoshvei tevel, v'imru. Amen. May the one who makes peace on high grant peace to all Israel, to all humankind, and to all mourners. And together we say, you may put your books to the side. If you know the person next to you, put your arms around them. If you don't, ask permission first. Here we go. Oseh shalom. Shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Shalom bimromav, hu yaseh shalom aleinu. Say shalom bimromav, yaseh shalom aleinu. Yaseh shalom. Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, e'al kol Yisrael. Yaseh shalom, Yaseh shalom, shalom aleinu, e'al kol Yisrael. Oseh shalom bimromav, Yaseh shalom aleinu. Shalom bimroma. Ethan, come on forward and hold our Kiddush cup tonight. You always honor someone who's taken a dangerous journey when they come back home. Come on forward. Where's our Kiddush cup? Come here, sir. It's only grape juice. I apologize. Here we go.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam borei peri hagafen l'chaim.
You take that. Yeah, I'll take this. Let's all point at this challah and go yummy, yum, yum. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam hamotzi. Good to have you back. Haaretz v'tei avon. Take a bite. Shabbat shalom, everybody. We have a special dinner tonight. It is in the other room, I'm guessing. Melanie, any instructions? Outside. Food outside. Come get a piece of challah from Ethan. Ethan's going to be right there. Shabbat shalom. Come get challah. Come get challah and then go eat if you want to touch the challah. You don't have to.